If you're looking for ways to make your junk journal even more fun and interactive, then this is a video for you. Because today I'm going to be showing you 5 of my favourite techniques, from paper bag pouches to my top secret method for printing photos. So if you love creative journaling, make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss any of my future updates. These are some really fun techniques for adding loads of personality and texture to your pages. So why not grab your journal and let's get into it. I've got some of my journals out here that I've used these various techniques in, and I'm going to show you some different examples of all of them, and then some little tips on how I create those when I'm doing a journal spread. Now Frankie's sitting with me at the moment. He might decide that he wants to get up and move. But who am I to move a comfortable cat? So let's just get into it. So the first thing I wanted to show you was paper bags and pouches. So here are some examples of paper bags and pouches. What do you think, Frank? Will I just put this here? I love a paper bag. Now this one came with some little gifts from a friend inside, and I think it must have been like a piece of vintage ephemera that had been reused by a store, because it's like a sort of wax pickle bag, and I just refolded this and chopped it down so that it would fit into my journal, and then I used it to stash some small things like a business card from a friend, a piece of packaging from a blind box, and then this amazing little set of like paper risograph stickers, a cool quote. And I love using pouches like this to sort of stash other things that I might want to take out and look at rather than stick down. So that was the first example. I've used little post-its. This is another example of a pouch, slightly different to a paper bag. I wanted to sort of showcase this in like a little window. So I used this little plastic bag that my friend's collage pack had already come in. And there's like some 3-dimensional things in there. There's a little bracelet, some like little gem stickers and some collaged things, and I just used that as like a little window for what was inside. And also it meant that I didn't have to throw this amazing packaging in the bin or the recycling. It was a nice way to reuse it. This one here, this sort of, I think it's called glassine, this stuff. I love this style of paper bag, and I'm pretty sure I got this from this zine store in Miami. So I decided just to use a little piece of this, and for this I just like glued around all of the edges so that there was like space inside to stash things, and that gave me extra space to stash the business card from that store as well. So it just sort of gives like this little interactive element, which I really love. Let's see, did I have any? Sorry, Frankie, put that there. I've got some other examples here that I wanted to show you. This paper bag here, this was from Blick Art Supply, and this bag, the bag that I got at the store, was huge. And it was far too big to fit in a journal, and I really wanted an example of it. So I cut down the bag, used the craft paper, and then just like drew like my own version. I copied a picture of the bag onto the craft paper and sort of recreated it here. And then I used this to stash like a little like diary entry inside. And I think on the back there was like a little sticky note that I got from there as well. So yeah, just really like the interactive element, and also miniature things. There's something so fun about like small versions of stuff. It just makes me happy. Let's see, what is the next version? Yeah, so this, I think this is what inspired me to make the Blick Art Materials mini bag. At Crush and Touch, they hand stamped all of their paper bags, and this one actually just fit perfectly in here. And of course I couldn't throw it away, so I decided just to again trim it down and fold some little flaps in to create this little envelope where I stashed. What did I have in here? Let's see if Frankie will allow me to put it down next to him. I've got some receipts for Big Bud Press, for Crush and Touch, what I purchased, $38. for salt and pepper shakers. I remember them, they're so good. And a little Polaroid of my friend. A really nice way to stash extra elements. There's another receipt from Crush and Touch. I'm gonna show you how I created this in just a second. Another example of how I use paper bags in a slightly different way. So this was from my friend Angie's shop in Palm Springs, and she had these paper bags that were again stamped with her store logo. And I decided for this one just to tear it off at the corner so that it sort of forms this natural little pouch here, because I got so many cool things from her shop. I got this bag lady sticker, which is 100% me. And then this was a sticker from her store with all of our details. This is the other half of this paper bag, but this was a map that she'd drawn for me to show me all of the fun stuff that I had to check out in Palm Springs. I can't let go of things like these, so creating these like little pouches is just the perfect way to stash all these little mementos. All right, so I'm just gonna give you some quick tips on how I use paper bags to create these small pouches in my journals. So this is one of the paper bags that we use in our online store, and obviously it's far too big to go in any of these journals, so we're gonna have to cut it down to size. So let's just say that I was trying to make a pouch for this square journal. Grab myself one of these clips. We've got these in clear. I think the glow in the dark are sold out right now, but they're really good for just like holding down your pages. I usually just wing this. I don't measure anything. So for example, I'll lay it out here. This is much trickier with a sleeping cat on the table. And I really like this sort of like, see this section up here that has like the two different textures? I want to keep that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay it out on the paper, and I'm going to roughly fold to the size that I want it to be, which is about there, and then fold it back on itself. And then same with the bottom here. So again, I'm just going to fold this up just so that I'm getting an approximate size where I want my bag to go. Now for this here, I'm just going to go in, now that I've got these two guidelines here and here, you can't really see. I'm just going to go in and chop these off with my scissors. So now I've got this sort of open bit of paper, but I do have some like little flaps here. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to tuck these behind and fold them in on themselves. And it doesn't have to be super neat. We just need to make sure that at the end we're left with like a little pocket here. So I'm happy with that, that'll do. What I would probably do is, just so it's nice and symmetrical, use my scissors and just chop this off, just so that it's like, it looks like a little paper bag. And then I would just take a little bit of glue or double-sided and glue that in. Maybe I'll be able to use that pouch for something else in this journal. What do you think, Frankie? Are you impressed with my first pouch? So I'm just gonna like put a little bit of glue down here and underneath this flap, just so that nothing comes loose when I stick it down. Someone commented that my journals look really solid, and that's because I usually use a lot of glue stick. I think I'm gonna need a little bit inside here as well. So much of this is just freestyling. And there we go. And then I could use that to put whatever I wanted inside, with my post-it notes from my demo. And there you go, your first little paper bag. So yeah, this is a technique that I use all of the time, and it's really useful for stashing extra little bits and pieces in your journal in a really tactile way. I was not anticipating doing this whole video with Frankie on the desk, but here we are. Okay, so next I wanted to show you some fold outs and how I use those. There's quite a few examples in this journal here. So this is my current junk journal, and I've got a lot of large elements in here that needed to be fold outs. Now I've got a whole video showing my process of this. I'll try and pop like a little clicky on the screen if you want to go and watch that whole thing. It's 40 minutes and it is very relaxing to watch if you fancy seeing the whole thing from start to finish. But this thing here, things that are larger than your journal page size, running out of space here, are just natural things for fold outs. So this here, this pocket guide, this is actually huge. Let me see if I can move my cup of tea and actually fold this out. So this is like an interactive map. Sorry, Frankie. You see how big that is? I think this is actually A3 in size, and I've just stuck a little bit of tape at the top here and then underneath in the bottom, just so it doesn't restrict how it folds out. When it comes to adding fold outs to your journal, that is something that is really important. Just make sure that the thing that you're folding out, it'll be different for everyone. You just need to make sure that you're not restricting how things fold. So that is the first fold out. Here's another fold out. And this page is like really quite layered. So I had these collage pieces, I had these Polaroids and this postcard as well that I got at the little beach house in Barcelona. Absolutely beautiful spot. So I used lots of like fold outs and flaps for this page in particular. I really wanted it to be like layered and like quite textural. First of all, you have to like fold out this little shell to access the photograph, and then the photo folds up, and then you've got access to folding up the postcard. And I actually wrote a fake postcard to my cats on the back of these. I love when you can like pick up little postcards from venues, or like when you're traveling. I don't buy postcards that much anymore, but if there's a free postcard kicking around, I will 100% pick it up. I need to be better at actually sending them from places. I just used one of our little stampers that we use for our mail, and a shellflower washi stamp to make it look authentic, but it is addressed to Frankie and Raj. The house with the pink door, Scotland, the world. I hope they received it. And then underneath here as well, I also stashed like this receipt that we got for our lunch there. So yeah, this page absolutely full of fold outs. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I think that's a really good example of how you can layer things and make it like really interactive. I really think that this sort of tells a really full story of our day, and it's really nice to look back on. This was another one from Barcelona. Let me just pull that post-it note off. I can't believe that Frankie has like stayed here the whole time. He's quite happy. Okay, so this page from Barcelona, it's kind of a combination of fold outs and pouches, because this is actually a pouch. I found these like old, I think they're like old cinema, like postcards. They've all got, it's either Spanish or Catalan. If anyone can recognise this language, I'd be really interested to know. I think they're like little flyers from old cinema. And I just love the style of this. I picked it up in like a little antique store. I think they were like €1 each. And they came in this very satisfying clear pouch. So I decided to layer this up and make this like a folding pouch. On the other side, there's this one, Kirk Douglas El Gran Carnaval. I love this like sort of layered screen printing style of art as well. So yeah, I decided just to keep them in the little pouch that they came in, because it seemed far too nice to not use. And it also keeps them protected as well, because they're quite fragile. So I just used a little piece of washi tape here just to attach it to my page. And then I used that to make like this little fold out hinge. And then underneath here, I decided to go with more fold outs for the business cards. Oh no, this is falling off. This is the thing with washi tape, it's such low tack, things like this can happen. Let me just try and stick that back in. There we go. Good as new. Yeah, so I decided to have these business cards here. I really like that you can like flip them up and read what's on the back of them. This was a cool store that I bought some things from. This little note here reminded me that that was actually where we got our dinner on the last evening. and then I tore a little bit of a paper bag. I think this was one of the shops that we shopped in. I can't remember what I purchased here. And then a strip of photos from a photo automat that me and my cousin Danny found. We did like 4 or 5 different strips of these. It's really hard to find analog photo booths in the UK. I think there's only one in Scotland right now, on Coburn Street. I have been there, but I decided just to stick this in my printer and photocopy it because I have the original on my wall, and I didn't want it to just be tucked away in my notebook, my journal forever. So that is a little trick I like to use for photos sometimes if I do have an analog copy and I want to make another one. Let's just stick this back in. Let me just check, do I have any other examples of fold outs? I think that was everything. So yeah, no real demos for showing you how to create fold outs. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. You just need to make sure that you use either, this one here is like a washi tape, hinge, and then the other one that I showed you here, I created a little hinge just by gluing the bottom half and then folding it over. So that's 2 different ways that I use to make hinges or fold outs in my junk journals. Frankie thinks this is for him. What do you think? Is that for you? You're giving me some more space. Thank you so much. What a good boy. The next thing I wanted to show you was fabric tape. What do you think, Frankie? Can I move some things around? Is that all right if I create some space? I'll try not to disturb you too much, right? Fabric tape is also in this one. Let me go back to where it features. The first place I started experimenting with fabric tape was in this like little watercolor spread. Here it is at the top here. I saw a tutorial on Instagram. I'll link to the person who I saw do this first, because this was not my idea. I cannot claim that it was mine, but it's just such a nice way to add texture to your notebook. This is some Liberty fabric that I had in my stash, and it's so easy to make. Certain fabrics work better than others. It's nice to use. I'll show you what I've got here. What do you think, Frankie? You like that one? This is like a really, really fine cotton lawn. It is so thin, and thin fabrics work the best because they don't bulk up your journal and they stick down really well also. I experimented with it here and I really liked it, so I decided I was going to use a little bit in my spread. You might have noticed it here and here as well. This was like the red Liberty fabric that I just showed you, and I created that just with a little bit of double-sided tape. Let me show you how I made that, because honestly it's so easy, and once you know, you will just want to use it everywhere. I'm gonna go for, let's see, what fabric? Frankie, which one? What do you think? Do you want to help me choose? Which fabric shall we go for? Right, you help me pick. Which one? Do you care? Are you bothered? I think he wants me to pick the blue one. Let's go for the blue. So what you want to do is just turn your fabric over. So there's obviously the good side and the reverse. This fabric has a good side and a reverse. And let's see if I can find the straightest edge, probably up the top here. And I've just got some double-sided tape. This is like the slim stuff. I think this is about 1 centimetre in width. And I'm just gonna like roughly tear a piece off about the width of this fabric. And then I'm just gonna stick it around about here so that I have a little edge all the way around. I'm just gonna try and cut as close to the edge of the tape as possible. Most of the edges of the fabric are stuck to the tape, so you get sort of quite minimal fraying, which is very handy. You do get a tiny little bit of fraying. I noticed that when I created my last piece, but I think that's quite nice. I think it sort of adds to the texture. So there is like my first piece of fabric tape. It's just like so textury and nice. And you can keep it long, or you can even like chop it up into like little manageable sized pieces, however you want to use it. Let's go back to the page that I had here, and we'll just keep going with this test page here. You could either use, I know that some people like to use tweezers for peeling these things off. My nails are quite long right now, so this is probably going to be really tricky. But yeah, it doesn't really take much to peel the backing off of it. And once you do, you've got this really sticky surface on the back. The tape is totally adhered to the fabric and you can just stick it wherever you want to. And it sticks down straight away. It's completely solid and it just gives you this like lovely textural look. And I've seen people as well do bigger sections of fabric. Like if you got like a big sheet of like sticky back paper, or you layered lots of pieces of tape next to each other, you could do like maybe big fabric stickers or whatever. But yeah, this is my new favorite thing. I love making fabric tape and it's a great way to use up bits of fabric in your stash. Okay, next up, envelopes. I love using little envelopes in my journals. This is a book. I don't usually use this size of book. I think they're by, oh, they're Paperways. Now, Frank, are you gonna, oh, I think he's finally gonna, oh no, you're not, you're just turning around. These are by Paperways and I have used envelopes at least twice in this book. Added some little post-its just to remind me where they were. I love using tiny little envelopes. If anybody gives me a tiny envelope, I'm gonna be keeping it for my journal. This one here was the envelope that I got my key card in for the Ace Hotel, downtown LA. Sadly, no longer the Ace Hotel. I think it's another hotel now and it looks exactly the same inside, but it was the Ace for a long time, and they had a very unique key card. It was like a laser cut wooden guy. And I'm really glad that I kept this because this is like a proper memento of the Ace Hotel now. And it has its own little neat envelope and it's just so good. I think the reason I love using envelopes so much in my journal is it reminds me of a book that I had when I was a kid. It was called The Jolly, I can't remember if it was The Jolly Postman or I had The Jolly Christmas Postman. I think it was the Christmas one. And basically it was like a picture book that was full of envelopes and you could basically, the whole concept was you could open up all of the mail that the postman had delivered and read people's letters. I don't know, there's just something about being able to nosy through people's mail that really appealed to me as a child. But also like that tactile element of being able to look through all the different envelopes and open things up and discover what was inside is just, I think it just really stuck with me. And I think that is my inspiration behind this concept. So again, this was like another little envelope. They seem to love giving you envelopes at the Ace. This was, I think this was a coffee shop that was on the ground floor. Yeah, it was. Loam at the Ace Hotel, downtown LA, October 2023. And again, I think this was a gift card that they gave me that was for breakfast. There's probably still a little bit of money on this. I don't think I'll be getting that back now. And then this little loyalty card. Again, just like lovely little mementos of the trip. And when they gave me the envelope, I was like, yes, I am keeping that envelope and it's going to be going in my journal. Let me see, I think I've got another good envelope example in this one. Well, this is kind of an envelope and it's kind of not. This was a little like receipt holder that we got at a Panda Express. Was this 2022? I remember this was the first time that I tried vegan orange chicken at Panda Express and my mind was blown. Yeah, 2022. And they gave us this little takeout box style menu holder. I think we must have got fortune cookies because there's our fortunes. How did this fit? Can I not get this back in there? There we go. That works. I guess it's an envelope. It's a type of envelope. It could also be a pouch as well, but I just wanted to include that because that was something that was really fun. I was like, I'm definitely going to hang on to that. And this, I guess this is another way you could make an envelope is just by putting a little slice and then gluing around the outer edge. A good way to like create like another little pouch if you've got like some decorative paper or card or something. Also laughing to myself so much. This little like diary entry. We watch a Celtic game and eat Panda Express by the pool. I have 3 ulcers. Sounds like I had had a very busy trip. This page is absolutely filled with techniques here. I don't want to put this down here because I'm sort of in Frankie's way. Cannot disturb Frankie. So this here, I created this little envelope just out of some of our dot grid paper and I just sort of freestyled a little sort of envelope shape. Used one of the shelf flower stickers and like a little stamp that I had to sort of make it look authentic. And for this, I think I just folded it into thirds and then glued the bottom two edges on the left and the right here, and then used it to stash our boarding cards. This was me and my cousin's boarding cards for our flights to Barcelona. And yeah, that is like a really cute way to stash stuff as well. If you don't have an envelope that you have like a real envelope, making your own is a really good way to sort of hack that. I'm pretty sure the example of envelope that I was going to show you, my friend Gina sent me an amazing hand-folded envelope, but I think Frankie's sitting on it and I definitely don't want to disturb him. So maybe I will leave doing the envelope demo to the end. I'm gonna come back to that because it's definitely underneath Frankie somewhere and I'm not moving him. All right, so the last thing that I wanted to demo was using thermal printer pictures. Now you'll see in my journals, I use these little Polaroids a lot. Now these are great. I love the Instax Polaroids, but the thing is they're really, really expensive. They work out as usually around about £1 per Polaroid, which is it's a lot of money. They're also quite thick as well, so when you use lots of them, you end up really bulking up your journal like this, which I don't hate. I really love when you get a thick journal like this. This is sort of like the sign of a good trip. But I met one of my friends at Max, I think this was 2 years ago now. Was this? No, this was last year. This was October last year. And she had this amazing little camera and I was like, what is that? And she was like, it's a kid's toy camera. And I had a look and sure enough, you get these little plastic toy cameras and they come with like a roll of thermal paper inside. I was like, I need to get myself one of these little kids cameras. The cheapest I found them was about 20 or 30 pounds, and then you have to buy the paper separately. The texture is like really grainy. They're obviously all black and white, and they came with like a sort of self-adhesive on the other side. They're kind of like a little label. And I almost bought one of these cameras, but then I thought to myself, why do I need another printing device when I've already got a thermal printer in the studio? Because we use a thermal printer for printing our mail labels. Every week, we print out our labels on our thermal printer. It's our Zebra printer. It must have printed thousands of labels for us by now. And I wanted to see if it was at all possible to use that for printing images, because it prints our text labels every single week. And you know, why not use it for photographs? I'd seen my friend Julia, she did, she printed out one of her collages. I'll try and link to her, I think she made an Instagram reel about it. And that really inspired me to try and utilize the tools I already had rather than buying something new. So I gave it a go creating my own 6x4 document and using that as a base to create a design on. And surprise, surprise, it worked really, really well. I mess around with the contrast and the brightness a little bit, and I was really pleased with the results, and they print out so fast. The labels that we actually get these as complimentary from Royal Mail with our business account. Not that I'm going to be using all of my Royal Mail labels for printing photos. I would never dream of such a thing, but I really love that these are like almost quite lo-fi and black and white, and just like such an interesting way to add photographs and images to your journal. Just something a little bit different to a colour photograph, and something that's like really textural and kind of interesting and very cost effective, because obviously thermal printers don't use ink, they use heat to make the marks on the paper, and the labels are really, really cheap. We use the Zebra one. There is another brand called Munbin. I have never used them personally, but I've seen lots of people use Munbin printers and they seem to be really decent quality as well. Is Frankie finally gonna leave us? What do you think, bud? I can't believe he stayed for so long. Wow. Okay, that means that I can show you the envelope now that Frankie's decided to depart. Here is the envelope that Gina sent me. Now, Gina let me, in fact, get one of her zines that she sent to me. She is amazing. So I'm gonna pop Gina's handle on the screen. She makes these amazing adventure time zines whenever she goes on a trip. She basically makes a little travel journal, like describes her whole journey with photographs, illustrations. Honestly, it's like visiting the place yourself when you read one of these. The really cool thing is, once she's made her journal, she copies it and reproduces them in like a little short run as zines. I'm pretty sure she sells them in her store, but she sends me them from where she's based on the east coast of the US, and I always love reading Gina's zines. This one is for her past adventure in Vietnam, and honestly it was just so nice to be immersed in this whole thing. But along with this, she sent me a tea bag with artichoke tea, and she'd like printed on the front of this. But I was really curious as to how she'd created this envelope, because when you open it up, you can actually see that it is folded entirely from one sheet of paper, which I just thought was so clever, much smarter than my DIY envelope that I showed you earlier. So I was gonna try and recreate an envelope a la Gina, and it looks like this starts with a square piece of paper. So let's get a piece of paper and see if I can start with a square. Right, I'm just gonna use one of our little dot grid pads here. It's as good a paper as any. And to make a perfect square, this is my trick. So you just fold your paper at a 45-degree angle. I'm not going to fold it too heavily here because I don't want it to be creased in the middle. And then slice this off. Should give us a perfect square so that we can try and recreate an envelope a la Gina. Okay, so it looks like it's laid out like a diamond and then folded up the middle. If you're watching this, Gina, and I'm butchering your method, I am so sorry. And then let's see, it looks like maybe it's folded. I'm guessing maybe this is different depending on what you want to encapsulate inside. Let's see, it looks like maybe, where do these fold to? Like quite far across. Is it like this? Have I done this right? I feel like this maybe needs to come further over. Sorry, Gina, that I am definitely butchering your method here. Okay, it looks like folding it into approximate thirds. That seems to be like what it feels like. I'm gonna have a look and see if there's an actual tutorial for this online. I'm just having a go. It's all about having a go. Right, okay, and then this looks like this is probably gonna fold over like this at the top. So that's our top flap. Bottom, it's like this. And then, okay, right, I think I've got it. So we've got our square, folded in half, folded down like this, and then, okay, I've got it now. I think I've got it. I figured it out. Okay, yeah, that seems like the most simple method. So start with your diamond, fold it in half, fold one flap down, and then fold the right and then the left over. And then we should just be able to tuck one of these flaps into the other. Okay, there we go. I think that's pretty good. Not bad for a first attempt, and definitely a good way to sort of create like a little envelope. And what I would do is either just like pop some glue on the back. Let's go and add it in here. Some glue or like a little bit of washi tape. Maybe some washi tape's a good shout. Some of our old school stationery washi. We've got some of this left in the shop right now. I really need to order more washi tape. Add a little bit top and bottom, and then it still allows this section to be openable inside for putting in whatever you want to. That was everything I wanted to show you. This has made me want to do another junk journal, but I've not collected any pieces for such a long time. I am going on a trip next month. Maybe that is the next time for me to create something. All right. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you picked up some new tips for your future journaling pages. If you enjoyed that, be sure to give me a thumbs up and hit subscribe so you don't miss any future journaling inspiration. I'll see you in the next one.